An imperial NFL dynasty wasn't supposed to bleed like this, but with Shilo brutally axed in Tampa Bay and Shedeur trapped in a brutal Cleveland QB battle, the untouchable Sanders legacy is officially collapsing in real time. Cold-hearted league executives are already sharpening their knives behind closed doors, whispering that the legendary primetime circus has finally been crushed by the harsh reality of professional football. But the NFL's elite forgot one terrifying variable. A mother pushed past her absolute limit as she watches her son's multi-million-dollar dreams get systematically dismantled. Pilar Sanders just launched a scorched earth public war against every front office in the league, issuing a high-stakes ultimatum that has sent shockwaves from Cleveland straight to the commissioner's desk. She's not just begging for mercy, she's daring one brave franchise to execute a market-shattering double deal or face the apocalyptic wrath of a family that refuses to go down without burning the system to the ground. For months, the national media narrative surrounding the Sanders family focused almost exclusively on the unprecedented hype, the flashy social media moments, and the golden trail left by Deion Sanders' Hall of Fame legacy. Yet beneath the bright lights and custom jewelry, the unforgiving machine of the National Football League has proven to be a ruthless equalizer. The narrative took a sharp, devastating turn when Tampa Bay officially cut ties with Shilo Sanders, ending his brief stint in Florida and leaving him stranded in free agent limbo without a roster spot. Almost simultaneously, up north in Ohio, Shedeur Sanders finds himself locked in an unrelenting multi-way quarterback battle during Cleveland's intense training camp. The narrative that once celebrated this family as football royalty has suddenly inverted into a feeding frenzy, with anonymous league sources, draft analysts, and talking heads gleefully claiming that the Grand Sanders experiment in the pros has finally reached its breaking point. What these critics failed to account for, however, is that the defensive armor surrounding the Sanders family doesn't just come from Prime Time himself, it comes from a mother who is entirely unbothered by the unwritten rules of front office decorum. While traditional sports media expected the family to retreat into quiet reflection and navigate these turbulent waters behind closed doors, Pilar Sanders chose to turn the entire narrative on its head. Stepping directly onto the public stage, she delivered a thunderous defense of her sons that instantly hijacked the NFL news cycle. Her message was not a subtle plea for an opportunity, but an explosive, unapologetic broadside calling out general managers and head coaches across all 32 teams. She explicitly challenged the hypocritical nature of league decision-makers who routinely preach family values while quietly discarding talented young athletes the second media pressure mounts. This sudden public war has effectively thrown a massive wrench into the calculations of both the Cleveland Browns and the wider NFL establishment. Front offices are accustomed to dealing with cautious agents and quiet rookies, but they rarely face a high-profile United family willing to weaponize public perception against the league's rigid power structures. As Shedeur continues to fight for every single first-team rep in Cleveland under the intense glare of local and national media, Pilar's vocal crusade has elevated the stakes from a routine training camp positional battle into a full-scale war for the family's professional survival. The Sanders dynasty is under siege, but far from surrendering, they have raised the battle flags, signaling to the entire football world that any executive foolish enough to write off these brothers is in for an absolute reckoning. To truly grasp why Pilar Sanders' public crusade has ignited such a fierce firestorm across the league, one must first examine the harsh reality check that hit the Sanders family's NFL dreams over the past year. For years, the path seemed entirely preordained. At Colorado, under the intense protective umbrella of their father, Shedeur and Shilo Sanders operated like untouchable gridiron royalty. Shedeur was hailed as a generational dual-threat prodigy destined to top the NFL draft, while Shilo provided the hard-hitting back-end defense that grounded their team's secondary. The Sanders brand was built on an unshakable promise that the fame, swagger, and undeniable star power that made Prime Time a cultural icon would translate seamlessly into the modern professional era. Yet the cold, transactional nature of NFL front offices quickly exposed the massive chasm between collegiate superstar hype and professional reality. The dominoes first began to fall during draft weekend, when a stunning slide sent Shedeur tumbling far past initial top 5 projections down into the 5th round, while his elite ball placement and dazzling flashes of brilliance earned him early opportunities and even a sensational Pro Bowl nod during a tumultuous rookie campaign. Scouts and analysts never stopped sharpening their knives. National critics relentlessly questioned his pocket awareness, pointing to costly holds, delayed releases, and a stubborn refusal to take the safe check-down option. Instead of being viewed as a franchise savior around whom an entire organization could build, Shedeur suddenly found himself viewed as a high-risk talent locked in a chaotic multi-way quarterback competition in Cleveland, battling every single day just to secure his place as a starter. If Shedeur's journey was a steep slope, Shilo's NFL reality was a sudden, jarring cliff. Entering the league as an undrafted free agent, Shilo was forced to scratch and claw for every rep on Tampa Bay's practice field, fighting for a depth chart spot without the cushion of a multi-million-dollar rookie contract. What should have been a story of resilience turned into an absolute nightmare when a high-stress late preseason game saw him ejected after a heated on-field altercation. Within 24 hours, the Buccaneers made a swift, unceremonious statement, waiving the safety and sending him straight into the cold uncertainty of free agency. In an instant, the grand, unified vision of the Sanders brothers dominating the Sunday spotlight alongside one another lay fractured in the mud. This sudden double gut punch forced the football world to re-evaluate the Sanders legacy through a far more skeptical lens. Pundits and talking heads quickly pounced on the situation, framing the brothers' struggles as tangible proof that the family's media empire was a dangerous distraction from the grueling work required in the pros. They pointed to Shilo's release and Shedeur's intense camp battle as evidence that the NFL machine will always devour hyper-visible personalities who fail to conform to the standard corporate mold. Behind closed doors, team executives nodded in agreement, content to watch the celebrated family struggle under the heavy weight of professional expectations. It was precisely at this rock-bottom moment, with Shilo without a team and Shedeur facing immense pressure in Cleveland, that the family realized playing by the NFL's quiet, traditional rules would only allow the league to dictate their fate. The nightmare scenario had fully materialized, and the established narrative was threatening to permanently alter both brothers' careers before they could truly take off. But where the rest of the league saw two young players falling out of favor, Pilar Sanders saw a calculated, systematic failure of the system to respect her family's worth, setting the stage for an explosive confrontation that would shatter the status quo. Instead of retreating into quiet compliance or offering polished public relations platitudes, Pilar Sanders launched an unprecedented public offensive, directly calling out all 32 NFL general managers and openly confronting the rigid, conservative culture of professional front offices. She completely refused to accept the passive, submissive role historically expected from players' family members when roster decisions turned sour. Instead, she weaponized her massive social media presence and national platform to shine an unforgiving spotlight on how quickly league executives dispose of young, dynamic talent, the second a narrative becomes slightly uncomfortable. In the face of mounting media skepticism and sharp commentary from talking heads, Pilar did not merely ask for fairness or patience regarding her son's development. She fundamentally reframed their entire situation, openly mocking the traditional front office fear of high-profile personalities and directly accusing decision-makers of corporate cowardice for hiding behind vague excuses like locker room distractions while actively suppressing transformative athletic ability. At the absolute core of Pilar's crusade is a breathtakingly bold proposal that sent instant shockwaves across sports media networks and corporate football headquarters alike, uniting Shedeur and Shilo Sanders on the very same NFL roster. Rather than accepting the league's attempt to isolate the brothers in separate cities and evaluate them as disposable individual assets, she forcefully presented them as a unified, non-negotiable package deal capable of revitalizing any stagnant franchise, daring enough to pull the trigger. In her eyes, Placing the brothers side by side isn't a risky gamble or a management headache. It is an instant cultural reset and a multi-million-dollar commercial explosion waiting to happen. She pointed directly back to their dominant collegiate tenure at Colorado, where their combined aura generated unprecedented brand equity, filled stadiums to maximum capacity nationwide, and transformed an obscure, struggling program into the undeniable focal point of American sports media overnight. This public ultimatum struck a tender, sensitive nerve among NFL executives who historically demand total conformity, quiet obedience, and absolute control over their roster construction. By daring an ambitious front office to break ranks and execute this ultimate power move, Pilar cleverly flipped the script, transforming her family's apparent vulnerability into raw, undeniable leverage. She challenged general managers across the country to look past cookie-cutter scouting reports and ask themselves if they genuinely possess the intestinal fortitude to harness the sheer energy of two elite brothers fueled by a fierce desire for professional redemption. If a courageous organization stepped forward to sign Shilo to solidify their defense while simultaneously entrusting Shedeur with the keys to their offense, they would acquire far more than just a talented quarterback and a hard-hitting safety. They would instantly inherit a self-sustaining marketing machine, an intensely loyal nationwide fan base, and an unstoppable media engine capable of elevating a small market team into a primetime global brand. Predictably, her uncompromising public war split the sports world into two fiercely divided factions, sparking intense debates on sports radio and social media feeds. Traditional analysts and old-school NFL insiders immediately condemned her statements as reckless parent noise that would only alienate conservative general managers and further endanger her son's standing in the league. However, a massive groundswell of fans and younger commentators rallied behind her, celebrating a mother willing to burn down institutional decorum to fight for her children's life work. But regardless of which side of the debate observers chose, Pilar's underlying point was crystal clear. The Sanders family will never allow cold-hearted executives to quietly write the final chapter of their gridiron story. By taking the fight directly to the league's power brokers, she successfully turned what front offices viewed as a toxic liability into a high-stakes challenge, demanding to know which owner or general manager possesses the guts to embrace the ultimate package deal before a bolder rival claims the prize. The initial reaction from inside the high-walled fortresses of NFL headquarters was swift, cold, and calculatedly dismissive. Old-school football executives, long accustomed to operating in complete secrecy and demanding quiet obedience from players and their families, immediately recoiled at Pilar's fiery campaign. Across sports talk television and radio waves, former general managers, national insiders, and anonymous scouting directors launched an aggressive counter-narrative, warning that such explosive maternal advocacy would only serve to poison her son's standing across the league. In their sterile corporate view, an athlete's draft status, roster security, and on-field opportunity should be dictated strictly by game film, medical reports, and front office metrics, never by high-voltage public pressure campaigns orchestrated on social media platforms. This institutional pushback underscores the brutal fundamental divide at the heart of modern NFL politics. To the league's entrenched decision-makers, any outside influence that threatens to disrupt locker room hierarchy or bypass the traditional chain of command is instantly categorized as a toxic threat. League insiders quietly leaked reports suggesting that general managers would view Pilar's vocal intervention as an unwanted headache, questioning whether signing either brother would bring an uncontrollable circus to their team's facility. They argued that in the hyper-analytical, cold-hearted business of professional football, a mother publicly challenging coaches and front offices only creates additional friction for a developing quarterback trying to gain his head coach's trust. For many conservative franchises, the fear of media drama far outweighs the potential reward on Sunday afternoons. Yet, analyzing this standoff purely through the lens of traditional front office decorum misses the unique cultural power the Sanders family commands. Pilar's relentless public stand is far more than mere emotional instinct. It is a calculated refusal to let a notoriously ruthless business quietly marginalize her children's careers. In an era where NFL teams routinely discard talented young athletes behind closed doors without accountability, her fiery rhetoric serves as an unyielding defensive shield. She understands that in the modern media landscape, silence is often interpreted as compliance, and allowing league executives to dictate the narrative unchallenged can permanently stall a player's momentum before they ever get a fair shot on the field. The central question now hanging over league circles is whether Pilar's fierce advocacy is ultimately elevating her sons or entrenching them further in institutional skepticism. While traditionalists insist that her crusade alienates potential suitors, it has undeniably forced front offices to pay attention, keeping both Shedeur and Shilo at the absolute center of national football discourse. In a league governed by ruthless pragmatism, general managers may claim to abhor off-field attention, but their primary obsession will always be winning games and generating revenue. By drawing a line in the sand and exposing the cold machinery of front office politics, Pilar has made one thing abundantly clear. Any organization attempting to manage her sons will have to deal with the fierce protective force of a mother who refuses to let the NFL machine chew up her family without a fight. Despite the fierce pushback from conservative league traditionalists, anyone who has closely tracked the trajectory of the Sanders family knows one absolute truth. Betting against them when their backs are pinned against the wall is an exercise in utter futility. Every single time critics, scouts, or rival executives have attempted to write their athletic obituary, that doubt has only served as pure, high-octane fuel for an inevitable dramatic resurrection. From Primetime's Hall of Fame dominance to Shedeur's relentless, laser-focused performance during Cleveland's intense quarterback competition, this family thrives in high-stakes environments designed to crush lesser competitors. The relentless noise, far from rattling Shedeur's composure, has only sharpened his execution on the practice field, where his elite arm talent, icy pre-snap processing, and unshakable poise continue to demand the first-team offense's full respect. While the league's front offices attempt to project an aura of calm, unyielding authority, the cold reality of the NFL is that desperation always trumps tradition. Injuries, collapsing pass protections, and stagnant offensive output will inevitably force several front offices into crisis mode before the season turns the corner. When that moment arrives, the very same executives currently rolling their eyes at Pilar's bold public crusade will be forced to look closely at the undeniable talent waiting right in front of them. The sheer commercial magnetic pull, coupled with Shedeur's raw game-changing playmaking and Shilo's hard-hitting defensive intensity, represents an instant high-octane solution for any franchise stagnating in mediocrity. Ultimately, Pilar Sanders hasn't just defended her children, she has thrown down an historic gauntlet to the entire national football landscape. The high-stakes chess match between an entrenched conservative league machine and an unstoppable, fiercely loyal football dynasty has officially reached its dramatic boiling point. Shedeur continues to drop absolute dimes in Cleveland training camp, proving with every precise pass that his talent belongs at the absolute top tier of the sport, while Shilo remains primed and ready to bring his relentless physical presence to whatever defense has the guts to make the call. The trajectory of this legendary football saga will not be quietly written by risk-averse executives hiding in corporate suites. It will be forged on the field through sheer, undeniable brilliance. The ultimate question now rests entirely on the shoulders of 32 general managers who must decide whether they are bold enough to seize this historic moment or foolish enough to get left behind in the dust. Will the Cleveland Browns recognize the unprecedented gold mine already sitting in their locker room, execute a game-changing roster move, and unite both brothers to unleash the ultimate Sanders package deal upon the AFC? Or will a rival organization step out from the shadows, embrace the electric energy, and hijack the entire sports world by giving this legendary family the dual platform they deserve? One thing remains absolute. The Sanders family will never bow to the system, and whichever franchise finally embraces their fiery movement is about to reap the rewards of an unstoppable storm.